All right, folks. Today I'm going to talk about a dropper loop. It's very important that you tie an actual dropper loop if you're making what we would call like a chicken rig or maybe like a surf fishing rig, putting a couple knots on there. Because a lot of people will just go and kind of do this the easy way. They'll double the line and they'll make their overhand knot, right, like so. And they'll pull it through. They'll pull that tight. This is not good, all right? If this knot breaks somehow, or this loop rather, breaks somehow, these lines, this knot right here will not hold, okay? So let's imagine you're using a double dropper, maybe get sharked or something, you lose the top dropper. If that bottom hook or the weight or something snags, you're going to lose it all. So what you're gonna wanna do is a dropper loop. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a big loop like this, okay? So again, I'm laying the line alongside itself, like so, okay? So as I do that, and again, I don't usually use braid for this. I would almost always use mono or maybe even fluoro. I'm just using this because it's a little easier to see over the dark table here. So as I go, I'm gonna hold these two lines where they cross with a little bit of a gap. I'm just gonna start twisting, okay? And you'll note that as I go, I effectively am wrapping the two lines around each other, like this, okay? And you don't need to go crazy on this, especially if you're using a heavy mono. It's just gonna be really tough to snug it down. So I'm gonna take this bottom of the loop and I'm gonna pass it through this little loop I've got right here, okay? So I come through there, boom, like so, all right? And so what you can see is it almost looks like say a cowboy hat or something, right? So now I've got this loop over here, this knot over here, this knot over here, and this loop in the middle. To tighten it, you're gonna pull on this middle loop, and you're gonna pull on these side ones until you snug it up pretty tight. Now I'm just gonna pull on these two ends like so, and as I pull, you'll note that it's gonna snug right on up there. Boom. You're gonna end up with your dropper loop right like so, okay? This is very strong. I could cut these two lines right here and this main line will still have its strength. Now there is a knot in it, but it's gonna be darn near just as strong as if you had never tied a knot in it, okay? This dropper loop, as you can imagine, when you make that first loop, you can make it as big or as small, and then that plus the way you tighten it is gonna affect how big you've got. You'll also note that these lines naturally want to lay off of the main line. So, especially if you're using a slightly heavier mono or fluoro, when this thing gets vertical, underwater, like so, you can see it'll hold the hook out to the side a little bit, all right? So especially if, let's say you're surf fishing or something where this maybe, your sinker's down here and this is here, you put a float on that line and boom, this thing will stick right up in the air or in the water as the case may be, hold your hook up off the ground. Very important. When you go to put this hook on this loop, I've seen people do a few things, all right? One, I've seen them go around and tie this in such a manner that the hook is loose sliding around on this loop. I definitely do not recommend that for several reasons, tangles probably being the primary one. What you're gonna wanna do is, and a lot of people know this just from, life, but you're gonna put the line through the eye of the hook, all right? And then wrap it around the hook. There's a right way and a wrong way to do this. I talked about this in my snelling video a little bit. If I put the line through the back of the hook like this, all right, and then I put it around, this is the wrong way, all right? Do not do this. This looks good to some people. Some people think, oh, well, if I hang it like this, now there's that, the line's coming in, and then the hook's pointing outward. This is not what you want, all right? As you pull on this, right, you'll note that it's actually turning the hook away. Let's say my hand is the fish's mouth or the lip, right? You'll see this is pulling that hook away, right? It's putting the hook point in towards the middle. It also is making an S, right? You see this, it comes up and turns two different ways. That is not what you want, all right? Note that on a circle hook, and when these things first were becoming super popular, I was pretty young and I thought circle hooks looked kind of dumb because why would you want it so that when you pull, a flat part hits the fish's lip? It's actually really important that you have continuity in that circle. So what I did here is this line, this dropper loop went through the front of the hook. Now, I'm going to run it around like so. What you can see now is that this curve, where the line loop meets the hook, it follows the curvature of the hook. All right. Now you can take this to extremes with all sorts of J hooks, trolling lures, etc. And I'll talk about that in a future video when I'm talking about making trolling rigs. But for right now, you can see compared to earlier, I challenge you to really like do this. Make a kind of a hole or a fish's mouth, quote unquote, with your fingers, and you run that with an appropriate size circle hook in the front. Every time I pull this out, look, it's putting the hook point against that lip, quote unquote, of the fish's mouth. So as I do this, every time I pull, boom, I'm going to get hooked. All right. You just saw me do it the other way without getting hooked. Now, when you're actually fishing, is this going to be every fish is hooked one way and no fish are hooked the other way? Absolutely not, right? But we need all the advantages we can get. I would say this is one of the number one ways I can know that somebody has put in time on the water is if every one of theirs goes this way. I see some people where one goes this way, one goes that way, whatever. This is very critical. It's the most important part of getting your hook on here is that you come in the front so that this curvature follows around. So then again, here it is, boom. See, look at that. It's putting the hook point into that. So that's my little dropper loop thing. I highly recommend making sure that you tie these up, tie them up ahead of time. You know, you'll put your weight down at the bottom and then make.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Comment what you would like to see next. Thank you.